So if you could tell me a little bit about your kids, because you're a mother of some little ones.
Yes. Well, I have a 5-year-old named Theodore, and we call him Theo. And I have an 11-month-old who's soon to be a year-old named Henry.
All right. And there are other women in the house primarily who have other little small ones. Is there a conversation between the moms on Capitol Hill that happens? Do y'all swap stories or get tips from each other?
All the time. When Stephanie Herseth Sandlin was pregnant, we talked almost every day about what it was going to be like for her to be a mom, what she should expect, different things she needed to buy, what kinds of schools were available, what kinds of daycare were available. And, we talked together all the time. And when I became a senator, I sought out Blanche Lincoln because when Blanche started, she had young children as well. And so I asked her for some advice about, what worked when you first started. Where did you have your children? Did you have babysitters? Did you have nannies? Did you have them in daycare? And just really talk about, decisions that she made as a mom to help me make decisions as a mom as well.
Okay, and this job that you have now, the Senate, is more time consuming, I would assume. You also are fundraising, you have a campaign to think about. So what is your typical day like in Washington with the kids, and how do you get going during the day?
Well, I usually get up sometime between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., depending when Henry wakes up. He pretty much is the first one up. And his crib is still in our bedroom, so he will wake up, and my husband and I will wake up when he gets up. And I typically take the kids downstairs. Once Theodore hears us moving, he wakes up immediately. Usually comes up and grabs me and Henry and says, "Let's go downstairs." And I take him downstairs. I make breakfast. We tend to play a bit in the morning, have a little playtime together, just me and the 2 boys. And then I start getting them ready for school, get them dressed, get their lunches packed and bottles ready and that kind of stuff. And then we typically try to leave the house around 8 o'clock. Theo's supposed to be at school about 8:30, so our week usually between 8:15. And my husband and I typically drive in together, and we drop Theo off first, and I'll take Theo in. So I walk him to school, put his lunch in his cubby, and get him squared away in school, talk to his teachers usually for a few minutes to see how things are going. And then we take Henry to his school where he's in daycare, and I usually get a few minutes. We play with him and make sure he's well settled and play with some of the other children there. And then my husband takes the subway the rest of the way to work, and I usually park the car here at the office.
All right, and at the end of the day, just same
thing.
I
do the pickup. Yeah,
okay.
I like to do the pickup when I can. But a lot of times we have my mom here in town, or we have Jonathan's parents in town. So we have a lot of help along the way, and it makes a big difference to have family to be here with us.
All right, and most senators are back and forth to their states quite a bit. Do the kids travel with you, or are they more stationary? Or?
Well, when I was a House member and we just had one child, Theodore, we would go home almost every weekend because Theo was 3 and he loved to get on a plane. 3 and 4, perfect ages for a little boy to be fascinated by every aspect of airplanes and air travel and airports. So we would go home almost every weekend. Now that I have this position and now that we have 2 children, I will travel on my own at least 2 or 3 weekends a month, and then maybe 1 weekend a month we'll all go together to Hudson because we really like going home. We love to see our whole family's up there, so we get to see all of Theodore and Henry's cousins, and they love their cousins and our aunts and uncles and parents and all that kind of stuff. So we like to go home. So we try to all go together maybe once a month and try to make a bit of a longer weekend if we can. And then we spend our free time when we have district work periods. We tend to go home. And I bring the kids with me. Certainly for the month of August, we'll be in upstate. So
okay. For a lot of young moms, I think they are balancing the work and kids, and when 2, it gets harder. Are there ever moments you're like, I cannot do this, or are you more of a mom who just pushes through and just looks to the end of the day every day?
Well, I think every mother has moments where they cannot believe that they're still standing, and many evenings I will fall over at the end of the day, but I think that, we all just make it work. For any working parent, everybody wants to be the best parent they can be, and they want to be the best they can be at their jobs, and my life is really no different. And so I work hard every day. I try to be a great senator for New York. I work hard on, passing legislation, making sure our state gets their fair share of federal dollars. For every dollar we send to Washington, we only get 79 cents back. So Senator Schumer and I are working very hard to make sure New York gets her fair share. We're also focused on job creation. With the economy as bad as it is right now, there's parts of New York State that have 12% unemployment. So we are very focused on how do we create jobs. And I'm working with President Obama to create legislation that really can do that. But as far as being a mom, I focus on the same things every other mom does. When I pick up Theo, I hear about his stories about the kid that pushed him, and I was like, well, why did he push you? What were you doing to him? That kind of thing. Or whatever what the day was. Theo is at such a wonderful age, and he'll always have some piece of artwork that he's bringing home to give to me, some story about something he built at school that day. And, these children's lives are so amazing, and, I just enjoy every moment with them.
And you talked about the legislation you were working on for New York. Has being a mom influenced the other pieces of legislation that you introduced?
Sure. There's a lot of issues that I'm particularly sensitive to because I have experiences that inform my analysis. For example, I'm very worried about access to health care for kids. I can't imagine how painful it must be for a parent who does not have enough health care or health insurance to make sure their kids have access to the medicine and doctors that they need. I've been in an emergency room at 2 a.m. when my son can't breathe because of asthma, and I can't imagine how painful it must be for a parent who couldn't afford asthma medication or be able to have the preventive treatments to make sure their child does not have an asthma attack. Those are really scary moments in every parent's life. And so since I've experienced that myself, I know how important health care for every child in America is. We have to make sure there is no child who doesn't have access to good doctors, to vaccinations, to preventive care. And so I'm very focused on that. I'm also focused on making sure our kids are healthy. Real kids first, healthy agenda. What are we feeding our kids in schools? How do we make more fruits and vegetables be available, more wholesome dairy? How do we make sure that we don't have childhood obesity? When a child is obese, he or she, they can't concentrate as well in school, so they tend not to perform as well. They often get made fun of, so they have low self-esteem. Every child in this country should have a chance to achieve his or her God-given potential. And we have to do that by giving them all the tools and the support they need. And we need to help our parents to make sure they have the tools and the support they need through good education, good schools, access to health care, a good paying job. I'm also focused on our moms. Moms, Mother's Day week, for every dollar a man earns, a woman earns 78 cents on that dollar. And if you're a woman of color, it's even worse. So if you are a Hispanic woman, a Latina, you will make 53 cents on that dollar. If you're an African American woman, you'll make 62 cents on that dollar. That to me is outrageous. And that means that our kids aren't getting the funds they need for good health care, good education, higher quality of life. All of those things are tied into how well our moms are doing. And so that's legislation I'm going to really fight hard for. And then overall, just make sure we have jobs. Having 12% unemployment rate throughout New York, that affects every family. That's 1 of every 10 people who wants a job doesn't have one. That's serious. And so I'm really focusing on the economy and how do we turn it around.
Okay, 2 more questions. Are you working on toys from China or safe toys? I think
yes.
I read about that.
One of the issues I took up on the House side was trying to create more resources for our government to oversee these toys. Because when I read about Thomas the Trains, my son loves Thomas the Trains. He's been building, trains and tracks for 3 years now. And, the red ones and maybe the yellow ones, and nobody was really sure which ones were unsafe. So we did a vet with NYPIRT, which is the New York State Public Interest Group that focuses on safety. And so we had an array of all the toys that aren't safe. A similar issue has come up recently. I read a report that our baby products that we use on our kids might have carcinogens in them, which to me was extraordinarily alarming because I looked at the list and I have half of those products in my bathroom today that I've used on my children since they've been born. And so as a mom to read this to say, what do you mean there's trace amounts of probable human carcinogens? Well, are they safe or are they not safe? Is there a safe level being developed? And it's almost impossible to have a conversation about a safe level of a carcinogen in your baby's products. That in and of itself is untenable as a concept. So I just authored a bill to mandate that the FDA review the baby products and tell us, are they safe, and to issue a report. And if they aren't, then to make regulations going forward to make sure that if I go to a pharmacy and buy a baby shampoo or a baby lotion, I can rest assured that in America, these products are safe. And there's many countries that have already banned these chemicals in those products. So that's another bill that I passed, and I think it's important for our moms and for our children that we have people in Congress looking out for the safety and well-being of our kids.
Now, speaking of moms, Mother's Day is coming up. Do you have plans? Do you know what you're doing?
I do. Well, I'm having brunch. My mom's in town, so I'm taking her to brunch to one of our local restaurants. And the boys have, well, not really Henry because he's only a year, but Theo has been making cards all week. And it's really funny because he has this one babysitter who we love, and he said, Miss Trina, are you a mom? And Miss Trina said, yes, I am a mom. He's like, well, I have to make you a card then. So he's literally making cards for every woman that he knows well to make sure that they all have cards for Mother's Day. So we'll be working on some cards for Grandma today after school.
Okay, well,